How many of you guys use surveys? Bunch, some, yeah. Well, you were probably presented surveys when you started with your implementation, but it's always good to revisit these things and to show and hear a little bit about how maybe you could leverage it now that you're in and you've been using the solution. We definitely are making some major improvements to the surveys, as you saw from Jason, right? It's gonna be easier for the admins to make surveys and publish them, easier for the rep to take them more seamlessly in one spot. We got some new scoring metrics and dimension to that with the dollars being added in addition to points. But let's talk through a couple of survey best practices real quick. So why survey? Listen, surveys, I hate surveys. Most people in the industry hate surveys. And rightly so, the way they've been done in the past, right? We used to go out with pen and paper, visit an account, and fill out a generic survey that had a bunch of grids on it, fax it back, and somebody about 6 weeks later would try to roll up some results, right? That kind of stuff is useless, and it's a waste of time, and distributors have been telling everybody that for years. However, if you can use a survey to take action and to actually do something about it, now you've got something, right? Now you've got an execution tool instead of just an information gathering tool. So there is a tremendous amount of value in surveying if you do it right. And I'm gonna talk a little bit about some of the best practices, right, for how you do surveys right, how you can leverage it to really add some value, okay? Two reasons and two use cases to survey. Number one, to learn, like gather information, like what's the pricing on my Chardonnay and my competitor's Chardonnay? Pricing surveys are a big one about information gathering. What's in the cold box? What brands are on display? You name it, you can ask a question about it in an account to just learn something, okay? And you can then leverage that data to gain insights and say, hey, our competitive Chardonnay has got a lot more distribution than we do, and their price point is $1 lower than ours, right? And that's stuff you can glean out of it by using the analytics that are baked into Grapevines. But there's other reasons to survey that we like to call the KPI execution style survey, right? Where you're designing questions that are actually KPIs that are the important things to execute in an account. And you're using it as a way to drive the execution and drive the action of the rep in the venue. Okay, so I'm gonna go into a little bit detail on this. Look, KPI surveys are not good for everybody. They work fine if you have a small team and you're not covering a lot of accounts. You're just getting a sampling of some key accounts or something like that. Maybe you want to design a survey where you're just surveying a couple of chains, maybe where you've got some authorizations running and your small team can handle that. But KPI style surveying is actually really more suited and better for big companies that have a lot of people on the street, right? They've got a lot of account coverage and they've got regular account coverage. Because now you're getting real-time data that's actionable at the moment in an account and can really be used to drive the execution at retail. So the other sort of best practices for the KPI style surveys are, you don't want to ask the same questions everywhere, right? So if you don't have good segmentation, and look, we pull in the segmentation and data you may get from VIP or from TD Links and all that, and you've got something. But if you want to layer on your own segmentation in Grapevines, you can do that. And really, design KPI questions for specific segments, right? KPI might be, do I have my rosé on display in the front of fine wine shops, right, in February, right? And so I'm doing a fine wine survey, and that's a question, and if I have that, I get points, right? Now, the rep knows, gosh, I need to execute that. If it's not here, right, I create an objective for myself to do it. So that's the methodology. So if you don't have the segmentation, you haven't targeted accounts, you're asking more wide range questions, that's fine. Maybe you can use those questions to actually help you segment your accounts, right? Go and do a survey and ask questions like, does the store do tastings? What segment is this? And other things. Get that data and then use it to segment your accounts and move on from there. But if you've got all those things going for you, the KPI survey really can make it simple for a person in the field, because they walk into the account, they open up their app, they log in their call, they click on their survey, and they're seeing the KPI questions that are supposed to be in the store, right? Call it what you want. Picture of success, perfect store. There's a million names for it. Set the standard, Todd. I think that was yours, right? I don't know if he's here. And you're not going to ask a million KPI questions. You're asking the questions that are important in that account segment, right? For that account specifically. So the rep can see what he's supposed to do, make the observations, take his photos where he has, where he's achieved something, and where he hasn't, he sees the score at the end. Oh, I got 50 out of 100 points. Here's the 6 things I did not answer on target. I'm going to go do this one, this one, and this one. And I'm going to create objectives for myself to do these 3 things by the end of the month in this account, right? So now you're turning the survey into an action plan in the account with objectives, right? That's a really clean and simple methodology, right? And you can auto-expire objectives after like the end of the survey date or things like that to try to clean up some objectives. So if the person doesn't go back and mark them as being closed won or lost or working, you can close lost it for them, right? And move on, clean it out. So we've got some customers really doing this well, and it's a real simple and slick way to do things. The other piece is that the scoring is a great motivator for salespeople. What's my score? Man, that doesn't get any easier than that, all right? 90 out of 100 or whatever it may be. It's a great way to motivate people. Improving my score, I can get that. I get that, right? I want to see rewards come as I do better. And it simplifies it. It's great. It's also a good way to share things with your partners, right? You go out and run a survey and you know on these KPIs, and then you're able to quickly send them a dashboard, right? Here's how we did. And it's a good way to collaborate. So look, real quickly, the KPI survey example, define perfection. Call it whatever you want. And by the way, you can mix in information gathering questions, right? You could have a question that says, do you have rosé on this floor within 5 feet of the front of the store? Yes or no, that's worth 10 points. And by the way, what's the price of the competitive rosé? Right? That competitive pricing question, there's no points on it. It doesn't count for the score. It doesn't factor into the points or the score. So you can combine things on one survey if you want. But define perfection, right? And weight each one of them. Each one of the KPI questions. You go and observe it. You take your photos. Photos are linked, obviously, to the account and the question and the brands and everything else. You review your score. You create your objectives to try to improve your score. And then you work your objectives, okay? We even have dashboards that we've built that show, hey, my current score right now is a 50. My goal, I've been given a goal to get my score up to 70. If I close all of my open objectives as closed won and I get those things done, I'll get my score up to 90. So there's actually a mechanism for management and reps to see, I have planned my work to get my scores where they need to be, right? So, but it's not for everybody. And the dashboards, man, the amount of data you get out of a survey is astronomical. And the amount of analytics you can do is unbelievable, right? Average price point, by segment, percent of distribution versus your competitor. How many points did we get on this question versus last month, and how has it changed? On and on and on. And then, of course, comparing scores to, can you guys see this one? Your sales data, right? So look, in fine dining, we scored 22 on our score this quarter, or whatever. We're down. Our scores went down this quarter versus last quarter. We have a few objectives open, but you know what? Our sales also have gone down in fine dining, right? We only sold 242 cases. We're down 67% in sales in volume. So you're tying surveys, answers, by product, by account, down to sales data, okay? So it's pretty compelling stuff. When you get into the account level information, as you do your drill throughs, you can start to see, great, hey, 19th hole, I'm at 46%, and that's way better than my survey score in there last month. I did 55% better. I got 2 open objectives, blah, 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 and look at my volume, right? My volume's way up. Look at a Bella Italian Kitchen. Might have an issue there. I did my survey scores have gone down, and my sales aren't good. So this is how you get insights from these analytics. Not just by account, but then drill in again one more, right? Which is now by product and question or KPI. So hey, look at this one. 100% of my accounts, had the NBA playoff signage for my Venice Beach Brewing product, right? But my Cloud Rum Silver and distribution, I only said only 85%, had that. So you can see who your best performing KPIs are and your worst performing KPIs are. I might have an issue, with getting my session IPA on the handle. Only have 63% of my accounts, right, have us on the handle. Let's set a goal to try to get that to 75% next month, okay? And then, of course, drill through from here to see by account and so on and so forth. So very, very robust analytics involved with either information gathering, questions, or using these scoring to really drive execution, right? Are there any questions about surveys? I mean, I think we try to be clear about that, the survey methodology and how you can use them pretty concisely over the years. Are there any questions about surveys or how you could use it or ideas for how you may leverage them?
Right off the top of my head, a gap analysis should be pretty easy, right? Whether you're looking at a restaurant list or surveying in a grocery store, immediately finding the opportunities to sell into a category or varietal or
absolutely
price point.
Yep, yeah. Absolutely. We've got surveys set up for customers that do exactly that. They show the percent of distribution based on survey information, the percent of distribution, by product, and you can see where you fit in there. You can see the accounts where they're in distribution and you're not, right? You could look at that gap and grab those accounts and set objectives for everyone to go get distribution where your competitor was there and you're not. So, great use case.
That almost makes it more powerful for us to be able to take that information back to the buyer, whether it's the corporate or store level, and know more than they do about what's happening currently, in their restaurant or set, and enable them to make more money.
Right, so, absolutely. Knowledge. Yep, absolutely. Yeah. Good call. Anybody else have any questions about surveys? How they're used, use cases? No? Okay, good. One thing that often comes up is people say, well, should I be putting surveys out, or should I be assigning goals, or should I be pushing objectives? You've got to make some decisions, right, about which methodology you're going to, go forward with, and you don't do it all. Nobody does. And some customers have chosen they're going to survey and let people create their own objectives and incentivize people to get scores. And that works great for them. There's other companies that say we're setting goals, you're logging calls, and managing their people that way. So it feels like drinking from the fire hose a lot, right? And I know I'm up here just spewing stuff. But it's important to be able to distill that down, figure out what's the right methodology for you and your team, and focus on it, right? And get that implemented. And surveys could be a big part of it if you're trying to figure that out. All right?